Gandhim pushtivadanam urvarukamiva bandanam mrityurmukshiyamamritat.
Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life. Today on the podcast, we are sharing a recording from the archives.
Welcome everyone, seeing each one of you, inseparable from baby Krishna. I come to you as your loving mother and most humble devotee. I have no desire in my heart except to serve you, and I deeply appreciate that you have been able to set aside some time in your busy week to come to satsang. There's nowhere more important to be than satsang. Satsang means a meeting of true hearts, when we come together to meet in the heart and share about spiritual truths and share our journey, our reflections. There's no more important way to spend our time. And a special welcome, my friend Bev has come all the way from Donegal to be here. She literally planned her trip around the world so that she would be able to be here tonight. So that's a very extraordinary dedication to satsang. Last time we met was in her beautiful, amazing home with wonderful flowers, and she's a food goddess like me. Wonderful flowers and wonderful cooking from things that she'd grown. So now we're meeting in Boulder, Colorado. So we're talking tonight about the qualities of the emerging feminine. And you're right, Gary, that's an equally important topic for men as it is for women. So that's why it isn't actually a talk that's only for women. So you're also in the right place for this talk. More than a century ago, in the late 19th century, in a suburb of Calcutta called Dakshineshwar, an extraordinary and epoch-making event took place with regard to the feminine. Ramakrishna had been hired as the pujari, or the temple priest, for the Dakshineshwar temple, which had been built by a rich lady who wanted to have a beautiful temple for Mother Kali. And when he took up his job as priest of this temple, he was a lot more than just an ordinary priest doing it for a living. He awakened the Divine Mother, not only in the image in Dakshineshwar, but he awakened the Divine Mother in a new way to mark a new time. His act of awakening the Divine Mother really marked the dawn of the age that we're now entering, the age of Aquarius. Because, brief recap for those of you that haven't heard of the first talk, we've been through two masculine ages, each lasting 2,000 years. The age of Aries, which is the age of the father, the age of law, and also, in fact, the age of conquest and the beginning of the dominator paradigm. And then the age of Pisces, which is the age of the sun, and the age of philosophy and the word and devotion, but still very much a masculine age. It had a lot to do with making distinctions and separating. The two fishes are swimming in opposite directions, good and evil, black and white, and so on. And now we're coming into the age of Aquarius, of which the symbol is a woman. carrying water. So it is a feminine age. It's actually the age of the daughter. And this time, yes?
When is that age start? When does the age of Pisces finish and the age of Aries?
No one knows exactly. We're actually on a cusp. And cusps are not tightly defined. Like, we can't say that the age of Pisces is going to end at a specific time. I don't want to be too formal in the small group, but it's easier for my flow generally if we take questions at the end, unless it's just something I said that you just really didn't understand. So it's just, I'll just flow a little easier. Okay? Yeah. And we'll have time at the end for questions and points and discussion. So we're coming into this age of Aquarius. So I have to just get back in my flow a little bit. Which is going to start anytime soon, but because the ages have cusps, one kind of fades in and the other fades out. So Ramakrishna is really a person that turned the wheel towards the coming of the feminine. And we've noticed, many of us have noticed, how many incredible manifestations of Divine Mother are actually alive in the world at this time. Amritananda Mayi, also known as Amaji. Karunamayi, who comes every year here to Boulder, the embodiment of compassion. Sri Anandima, who also tours around and comes to Boulder every year. Mother Meera, who many people recently had a chance to see in Denver. And until she left this plane recently, Anandamayi, a very incredible manifestation of the Mother. Now, how we understand it is that all these embodiments of the Mother were really brought forth by that one act when Sri Ramakrishna awakened the Mother in Dakshineshwar. And see, Calcutta just means Kalikat. It means the place on the river Ganges where Kali is worshipped. That's literally all it means. It's been a land of the Mother since time immemorial. So that's why he had to awaken the Mother specifically in Calcutta, in the place where Kali has always been worshipped. And we'll notice that many of these mothers, Amachi, Karunamayi, they do feel a special connection to Ramakrishna. They know that their manifestation has really been brought about by this extraordinary person who inaugurated the time of the Mother, a time of a new awakening of the feminine. And what's also wonderful about the age of Aquarius, you see, it's an age of equality. So we're not going into saying, well, now women are going to be on top and men are going to be less. And it's not that this age is only about women and not about men, because it's a time when both men and women are going to be equal. Neither one is going to oppress the other. Certainly women are going to come forward more into public life. That's just to kind of redress a balance. There has still been no female president of the United States of America, even though there have been female presidents and prime ministers of all kinds of countries, such as Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Liberia, and other countries where we might not think that women are as advanced as in America. So women will need to come forward more into public life, but not to dominate over men, but to have that equality, and men and women both being in touch with this new emerging paradigm of the feminine. It's a time when that archetype of the feminine is becoming more predominant after 4,000 years when the masculine was more predominant. So we're going to have a look at what are some of the specific qualities that are going to be manifesting that make up what we call the emerging feminine. Otherwise, it's rather woolly. And really what these qualities are has been put forth in a very ancient hymn. I'm sure a hymn that Ramakrishna must have sung many a time when he was worshipping the Mother. This hymn is called the Devi Sukta, and it's a hymn praising the special qualities of the Divine Mother. So I'm going to just sing an excerpt from that hymn and talk about the particular qualities of those verses that were selected that I'm going to sing. Do you want to just strum your dota to give me some notes? Yadivi sarva bhuteshu chatanatya vidyate namastasyai 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 namo namaha Yadivi sarva bhuteshu Vishnumayate Shabdita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Shaktirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Shantirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Kshantirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Shraddharupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Kantirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Dayarupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Tushtirupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Yadivi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrurupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi, this goddess, Sarva Bhuteshu, the one who exists in everything, the one who abides in the form of, and then in each verse it describes one of the attributes within which the mother abides in everything. So first of all, it's explaining that the mother abides in everything as consciousness. Everything is everything is conscious. In other religions, consciousness is not seen in an equal way, but in the way of the mother, the same consciousness of the mother that is found in your heart, is found in the little tiny ant, it's found in the rock, it's found in the tree. She is dwelling in each and every being in the form of consciousness. So that's really first very important lesson of the mother. Reminds me of a dream I had some years back, and in this dream I was running naked through the streets of Boulder, shouting, "All forms are divine! All forms are divine!" Because this was the teaching of the mother. Well, it had two meanings. One is whatever form of God you like to worship is God. That's the most important thing that we find in what we call Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, is that any form of God you like to worship really is God. There's no competition between gods. But it's also really saying that every single form, whatever we see in the world around us, is divine, because every form is where the mother makes her dwelling as consciousness. Everything, even the rock, is conscious. We wouldn't even exist if it weren't for rock consciousness that has made up this world that we live in. And from the mineral soup of the rock consciousness, right, came the living forms. So everything is conscious and everything is a part of the mother. And it says, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita. This goddess who in all things dwells as wisdom, or higher intuitive knowing. And that is really the form in which Ramakrishna awakened the mother. He really awakened her as the wisdom goddess. He actually had a wife, a consort, known as Sarada Devi. And Sarada is one of the names of Saraswati. Saraswati is the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of the word, of understanding, of higher wisdom. And so Ramakrishna actually worshipped the goddess not only in the form of Kali in the temple, but in the form of his own wife, Sarada Devi, who he empowered as an embodiment of the goddess. And it's the characteristic of wisdom is the first thing that we want to see coming forth in the awakening of the feminine. Because we have gone away from wisdom to reason. For the last 4,000 years we've been concentrating on developing reason, rational knowing. The things that you can prove. You can either prove them mathematically or you can prove them philosophically. You can prove them scientifically. But everything has to be subject to this form of rational proof. That doesn't mean that we're going to leave reason behind. It was wonderful that we, as a human race, were able to evolve this sense of being able to be rational. It would even be more wonderful if we were able to actually act rationally, because then we wouldn't rush to war. We wouldn't make insane weapons that could bomb the entire world to pieces. We've developed a lot of reason, but we can't use it to act rationally, because we have to also, to reason, we have to add wisdom, also known as Sophia. It's the feminine quality. When we add that wisdom to our reason, then we'll actually be able to use our reason to not act in irrational ways. Right now, because we're just imprisoned in only reason, we always think we're reasonable and logical. Like in medicine, they talk about evidence-based medicine in Western medicine. But most of what the doctor does for you is not evidence-based. It is actually done either because he was taught to do it in medical school, or because some drug rep recently came by and gave him a notepad and a pen and things that have the name of that on, and he thinks, somewhere I know I'm supposed to use that. So it's something that seems to be rational, but it's not necessarily rational. Many of our choices that we're making that seem like they're rational are based on unreason. Because if you can get the point I'm trying to make, in order to be able to use that masculine side, that left brain, rational side, to its fullest effect, we have to add the feminine sense of wisdom, which is more based on intuition. Buddhi has to do with intuition, and with what some people now are calling emotional intelligence. You can all probably think of people who are extraordinarily intelligent, but they make very foolish choices, because even though their IQ is really high, their emotional intelligence hasn't caught up. So now bringing in the age of the feminine means being able to marry that sense of intuitive wisdom with that sense of reason. I was never very good at arithmetic, but there were always moments in school when I would star in math class, because we'd be given, I remember one time we were given a proof to do in algebra, and I did it by intuition, and I came back and I had the proof in 3 lines, and the math teacher had it in 10 lines. Because the math teacher had to go with logic, but he had to agree that my proof was right. But it actually didn't come from the real brain of mathematical reasoning. It came right out of buddhi, out of that intuitive knowing. Okay, it's got to be, it has to be, and it's like this. How do you know that? I just know it. And women are often in trouble for saying, well, I just knew. Can you prove it? As we're coming into the emerging of the feminine, we want to marry these two together. So we want to use all that amazing reasoning power that we've been developing for 4,000 years, marry it with intuition, feminine wisdom. So then we're going to be able to use both our halves of our brain. We're going to be able to make good choices about how we move forward in our world. That's the first very important attribute. The feminine has awakened as the wisdom goddess to bring us a new way of understanding our world. Next one is Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita. We're saluting this goddess who dwells in everything as Shakti, as power. Shakti is a feminine aspect of power. And starting to understand the feminine as Shakti gives us a whole sense of what we mean by the feminine and femininity and this emerging feminine that is very different from some of the archetypes we have in us. Because we're all, as far as I can see, every single one of us in this room is a Westerner. So we've been brought up with this idea that when we're talking about the feminine, we're talking about something passive, being feminine. The way I was raised, I'm sure the way you were raised, means if you can't figure out how to do it, look helpless and flutter your eyelashes and try to get someone bigger or cleverer, male, to do it for you. So that being feminine was often described as being weak, being passive, being helpless, being disenfranchised, someone that has to be lorded over by a man. I mean, it even says it right there in the Bible, that, at least in the epistles, that the man is supposed to lord it over the woman. Right? Of course, we have to accept that's a time-conditioned element. So we have this sense of feminine that's associated with weakness and passivity and helplessness, and your face is your fortune. We're not supposed to have too much brains either. and so on. And that's why when we're thinking about bringing forth the feminine, we're not even sure if we really want to embody that. Right? So the men are kind of thinking, well, I don't know if I want to get into my feminine, because then I'd be weak, and I'd be helpless, and I'd be passive, and men don't do that. Men are strong, and they get things done, and they're effective. And the women are thinking, well, we want to be feminine, we think we want to be feminine, but then we don't want to be this thing. So the whole of feminism was actually about not being feminine, in the sense of not being this thing that we don't want to be: weak, passive, helpless, subjected, and so on. So instead, we turn around and we think what's really better for me to be is masculine. Because when I look at men, I see that they're successful. The president's a man, the CEO is always a man. Men are on the top, they're more successful. Men do more important things than women do. Men get better rewards than women do. And I would do better if I was more masculine too. So deep down, we all think like this. Back when I was in school, I don't know if it was like this for you, but when I was in school, we had to wear ties to go to school. Why did the girls have to wear ties? To prove that we were educable. Right? We were nearly as good as boys. We could wear ties and blazers like boys, because if we were made a little more like boys, that would show we were worth receiving higher education. So we have got into this thing where we've embraced values that are more either male-defined or masculine, because we think that's better than the feminine, if we think the feminine is weak and helpless. So now if we look at this hymn that's talking about who Durga is, who the Divine Mother is, she is dwelling in everything as Shakti. Not only is she not weak and helpless, she is the only one who could conquer the hideous buffalo demon. Because all the male gods couldn't conquer that demon who had received a boon that no male could defeat him. And so they called down the supreme feminine power with all her weapons. Had 10 arms, sometimes 8 arms, 10 arms, all with weapons. A warrior goddess riding on a tiger. This is the sense of what Shakti is. It's a whole different picture of who the feminine is than what we read about in women's magazines, girls' magazines, romance books, lots and lots of literature that we've all read and studied that always portrays women. Usually the books are written by men, or else they're written by women experiencing that role of being very oppressed. So we're used to one image of the feminine, like in Ibsen's play, The Doll's House. The heroine in Ibsen's play, The Doll's House, is this woman who lives in a gilded cage, and she's totally infantilized. She's just supposed to flutter her eyelashes and wear pretty clothes and simper and be charming. She doesn't have to go out and cook and garden because there are servants to do that. She doesn't get to do any real stuff. She's just supposed to simper and go to parties and look pretty and somewhat take care of her children, but again, there are really servants to do that too. One day she wakes up and she realizes that that's not what her life is about. And she says to her husband, I'm leaving. She realizes she's shut in a doll's house. That's why the play is called A Doll's House. And she says, I have to leave. And her husband says, but what about your duty to your husband and your children? And she says, I have another duty higher still. My duty to myself. So she's breaking out. Ibsen's having a portrayal of someone that actually breaks out of this whole imagery that we've had about who women are and what the feminine is. And now Durga's coming, riding on a lion or sometimes a tiger, either way, a big solar beast. She rides the solar energy. In other words, she is totally at home with that masculine power of the solar energy. So she's not only like a lunar figure, but she rides the whole power of the solar energy. And she's a warrior, and she has weapons, and she rides out to battle. And she can defeat a 1,000,000-strong army of demons. She can kill the horrible buffalo demon. It's on the occasion of her performing this victory that the hymn that I've just been singing you was sung to her by all the gods. So this is a different picture of what the feminine is. Having the Shakti, having the power. The power to move and shake and change the world. So when we bring the wisdom and the Shakti together, we can get a very different picture of the way the world can be. Why are there more post-menopausal and menopausal women on the planet today than ever before in the history of the world? Because what we really need is we need that wisdom that especially elder women are very capable of bringing forth. We need that Shakti. We need that strong energy. We need lots and lots of warrior women to go out and say, this has to stop. This has to change. We've got to stop having wars. We've got to stop oppressing people. We've got to stop destroying the world. We've got to stop creating greenhouse gases. We've got to stop it now. And we're going to make sure this changes. And not only the women, you see, it's the men too that feel a sense of their feminine. As I know and appreciate that the men who are in this room are very in touch with your inner feminine. Probably have had issues in your life because of how in touch with your feminine you are, and you're not the macho guy that you're supposed to be. Because you're also in touch with that feminine energy, and you're also respecting that Shakti that's in the woman. So the understanding of the Shakti aspect of the feminine is very important for how the male energy is emerging. Because before we have had this kind of macho archetype, right? You're supposed to be the one that knows what to do, tell her what to do, take care of everything, you don't have any problems, you don't have any emotions. And the woman doesn't like that, really, because she can't then be herself in her Shakti. She has to just be subjected to that macho energy. But then we can go the other way and want to be this Mr. really, really sensitive. Right? Mr. I'm very sensitive, I'm very in touch with my feminine, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to really make sure that I'm not too dominant. And the woman's getting really annoyed with this one too. Because if you're too much just the sensitive man, she can't express her Shakti because she's afraid she'll dominate you. And the one thing a woman doesn't want to do is dominate the man. She hates that. She wants to have an equal partnership. She wants you to be that lion or that tiger, that solar energy that you two can ride out together to change the world. If you come along and your tiger just goes, that's not what she wants. It's not a rider, it's not a kitty cat. It's a strong solar energy. Durga and her solar vehicle. It's actually the masculine and the feminine together. So respecting that Shakti power of the woman, it calls for the man to be able to be at once tender and strong. The macho man couldn't be tender, and women hate that. They're like, who is there to relate to? There's like nobody there. The more you can't relate to your feelings, the more insane your woman is going to become, because she becomes like this ocean of feelings. Maybe if I cry a bucket of tears, he'll feel it. Okay, what about if I cry a bathtub full, right? So the newer man, like the men in this room, are able to be tender. So you want to be able to be strong as well as tender. So the woman can feel that she can be there in all her oomph, in all her Shakti. And there's somebody strong there, strong and tender. That's a very, very hard thing to be, but that's the task of the men who are part of the emerging feminine. To be a person that's at once strong and tender, so that the women in your life, the women you love in the various ways that you love women in your life, can feel that sense of there's someone strong enough that I can really be there in all my Shakti. And that can be appreciated. Not someone that's a pushover. Right? Pushovers are really actually frustrating to women. The woman wants to feel that a strong person, but also with that tender heart and that respect for the woman's Shakti. Means the woman is going to be the one who gets things done. Right? Who's able to make things happen. The man may be the one who says, okay, I get it. Here's what we need to do now. And then the woman's going to say, okay, I'll network here and here and here and here and here, and I'll make all that happen. Letting the woman's Shakti move the energy too. So it becomes a partnership. This goddess who dwells in all beings as peace. It's very, very important that the power comes ahead of the peace. Because the real peace is not about capitulating. Oh, well, I suppose it's okay, yes, whatever. That's not really peace. Just capitulating. Real peace involves tremendous power. First, we have to unleash the Shakti. The Shakti of the feminine in the woman and in the man who is in touch with the feminine. We want to unleash that really strong power. And then, out of that comes peace. Because it's when we're able to right the wrongs that peace will happen. It's the kind of peace that when we think of Gandhi or Martin Luther King being peacemakers, they didn't just sit around and say, all right, I don't want to be disturbed. They moved tremendous amount of energy. They had a tremendous amount of Shakti. They made peace. So the peace that the mother is bringing is a peace that she has to create. It's not a peace of just passively, apathetically letting it happen. She is peace because she has won the victory. So she's known as Shanta Durga, the peaceful mother, when she wins a victory. Sadananda beautifully tells and relates the story of Shanta Durga. Essentially, Shiva, who is the destroyer, the renewer, and Vishnu, who is the preserver, are having a battle. Who's more important? And Shanta Durga comes along and she grabs them by their tufts and she shakes them and she says, peace. So she makes peace using Shakti. Forcefully she makes peace. Peace means to reconcile opposites. And Shanta Durga is reconciling these two opposing energies. And so it takes a great deal of Shakti, a great deal of energy to be able to come to that place where we can reconcile opposites. It's not like the Pax Romana, a peace, a seeming peace enforced by a sword. It's not the peace of just giving up, putting our heads in the sand. It's the peace of seeing where the opposing and clashing forces are and having the energy to bring them together. And that's the alchemy of the feminine. Again, this emerging feminine is of the men and of the women, that ability to reconcile the opposites. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Kshanti Rupena Samstita. Going with peace is patience. the goddess who dwells in everything as the power of patience. And the patience of a woman is well known. Right? It's our quality of patience is the factor, it's the oil that makes our relationships work. Because patience is having a ground and holding a space to let relationships and situations unfold. That's the energy of the mother. The feminine is that patience that holds a ground and a space. Actually, this co-op that we're sitting in part exists because I had that role on the co-op board for 5 years, the 3 years that it took to begin the co-op, and then the first 2 years after the co-op was opened. There'd be all this, boards, they're intense, there'd be all this like bickering and clashing because I was the only woman on the board and everyone would be doing their thing. I'd be holding this space of patience. I wouldn't necessarily say a whole lot at the meeting, but I'd hold a space that every now and then I might say something like, one thing we're all agreed on is that it's important to have a co-op. And we'll be like, well, that's right, we're all agreed that it's important to have a co-op. We all want to work together to do it. So it's just like an example that's patience is that way of bearing things. It takes patience. I see at least 2 mothers in the room. It takes a lot of patience to have a child growing in your womb for 9 whole months, going through all those changes. So that there's a very inherent patience in the feminine, allowing that emergence, that development to happen. It takes a lot of patience to be with children. always getting into what they shouldn't get into, trying to burn themselves, drown themselves, whatever. It takes a lot of patience. Relationships take a lot of patience, because if we lose our patience, we jump out. And then we inevitably jump into another one that's just as bad. I mean, that's the typical pattern. Having patience to allow things to flower and unfold. It's a very important part of this emerging energy. And it's going to take a lot of patience. We may have the Shakti to change the world, and we want to have the peace. But then we have to see that it takes patience for it to unfold. A few years back, Sadananda and I received a little tiny sprouted peach pit in a milk carton. And we planted it in the ground, and we fertilized it, and we watered it. And now we can sit and enjoy beneath the shade of that peach pit. Right? So that's the patience of the feminine is seeing that you can get food and shelter from a peach pit, but what it takes is time and letting it be, and not going over and saying, oh, that tree's too small, we should chop it down and never do anything. But giving it the time to emerge into what it's going to be. And we all of us, each one of us in the room needs to bring forth that patience too, if we're going to allow things to unfold. With patience goes the next one, Shraddha, faith, which doesn't mean, this feminine aspect of faith or Shraddha doesn't mean believing in things. It doesn't mean subscribing to a creed. It doesn't mean believing in propositions. It means really caring. Caring about meaning is really what faith is. It's quite extraordinary that in this time in history, a Buddhist female teacher, Sharon Salzberg, has actually written a book about faith, not particularly known as a Buddhist topic. But because she's feminine, a female, and modern Buddhist teacher, she has also been part of bringing this energy forth. Faith means truly caring about everything and truly caring about meaning. Kanti rupena samstita. She dwells in everything as beauty. So there's another word for beauty, which is kala, which is the beauty of rhythm and measure and proportion. This is not the kind of beauty that we're talking about in the emerging feminine. We're talking about a wild and passionate beauty. Not the beauty of rhythm and proportion, though that's also a part of the feminine, but the wild and passionate beauty of the feminine. Right? That means not the kind of beauty that looks like an airbrushed supermodel. And it's getting more and more disturbing, not only the supermodels on the ordinary magazines, but who's on the front of the yoga journal. Am I supposed to look like that to do yoga? It really doesn't matter. Nobody ever looked like that to do yoga for the thousands of years that yoga was invented. They more likely look like an old man with a beard and knobbly knees, and a bit of a pot belly too, as old men tend to have. This is the wild and passionate beauty of each person's uniqueness unfolding. Not just the beauty about the face, but the beauty of everything unfolding in its uniqueness. The beauty that every being possesses. Sometimes we might think that horny toads aren't beautiful, or hippos aren't beautiful. We want to define some things as ugly and others as beautiful. Some people as ugly and others as beautiful. But the mother dwells in everything as beauty, because the uniqueness of everything is beautiful. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Samstita, dwelling in everything as abundance. The great richness and bestowing of the mother, and seeing that tremendous abundance everywhere. I'm not going to go into this one too much, because I have a whole other talk that I give about money and abundance and Lakshmi, but just understanding this tremendously enriching quality of the feminine. That our sense of never having enough really comes from our feminine being in some ways constricted or pushed down or repressed. There's a tremendous abundance that comes with being in touch with our feminine. I'm just going to give one small example, and it concerns Sadananda. There was a time when we lived in Tucson, and we didn't have much money back then, so we lived in a very inexpensive little apartment, and the swamp cooler was broken. And it gets to be really hot, even up to about 120 in Tucson. So it was fairly unbearable living in this little place where the swamp cooler was broken. So Sadananda went out, he went to an apartment next door, he met the apartment manager, he said, "Don't you find it tiresome having to clean the pool every week?" Because she was an older woman and kind of arthritic. He said, "We'll clean the pool for you every week in exchange for swimming rights." This is an example of Lakshmi Rupena Samstita, being really in touch with the abundance of the feminine. Sadananda could manifest a swimming pool when a swimming pool was really necessary. He didn't have to go out and have enough money to provide a swimming pool in some kind of standard way. He could see the richness of the situation and how he could produce the swimming pool, which basically, morning and evening, nice cold dip, enabled us to live in our hot apartment for that whole time, that 2 summers that we were in Tucson. Just an example. This is the richness of the mother. We want to see the richness and abundance that's all around us and just move into it. I think the swimming pool is an excellent example that you can reflect upon. Talk about being a good provider. We're a good provider, really, not because we work hard 8 hours a day. It may be necessary. When it is. We're a good provider when we can see what's being provided by the mother, and we can flow into that. Daya Rupena Samstita, abiding in everything as mercy or compassion. This is really the outstanding quality of the emerging age of Aquarius and the emerging feminine. This is Aquarius the water carrier. Some of you have heard me tell this story before, but it's a very important story about the emerging feminine. It's a story of German women in the Holocaust. Sorry, I know you three have heard it before, but these three haven't. One of my friends told me about her mother during the Second World War and the Holocaust. And her mother lived in a town through which the trains would travel towards the camps in the east. And every day, she and a group of other women went to the railway station with bottles of water. And they would be beaten, and they would be kicked, and they would be screamed at by the SS, but they kept going day after day after day, bringing the water. Some of those people perhaps did survive because they didn't die of thirst on that train. And the others, the ones that didn't survive, were shown that somebody cared, that there was compassion and there was mercy still for them in the world. These women were the water carriers, literally. They were bringing forth the Aquarian archetype when they carried the bottles of water to the transport trains, where the people had no water and they were perishing with thirst. This is what we're bringing forth, is the mother in her fierce compassion. It took very fierce and strong compassion. The compassion is not just like, oh, I feel so sad about that. They have that fierce compassion to withstand those kicks and blows and bring that water. And day after day to keep doing it despite everything. That's what we're talking about. The mother who dwells in everything as compassion. The mother who dwells in everything as tushti, as contentment. Very countercultural virtue. We're all supposed to be discontent so that we will buy more. If only I had a bigger house, if only I had a bigger car, if only I had a more trophy wife who was less fat or less grey, if only I had a better boyfriend, if only I had a child that was different than the one I have. It's that we're all trained to be very discontent so that we'll buy more, right? But the mother is dwelling as that feeling in each of our hearts as able to be content. And you can just go home and reflect about how contentment is such a countercultural quality, and how different the world would be if all of us, instead of waking up in the morning feeling discontent with our house, with our car, with our job, with our relationship, with our clothes, with whatever, woke up in the morning and just felt content with exactly, I am content with what I have, little be it or much. And Lord, contentment still I crave, because thou savest such. That's a quote from John Bunyan. Beautiful. Not that we have to have a little or much, but whatever it is. Some contentment. And finally, she is the one who dwells in everything as mother. And that brings us back to full circle. Because again, it's this understanding that everything is sacred. Because everything is the dwelling and the abode of the mother. Now's the time for your questions, or comments, or discussion.
Well, you just answered the question I had.
Yeah.
I kind of turned the devil's advocate. It just seen him as an opportunist.
You saw Sadhananda as an opportunist?
Yeah, rather than, like, it's okay when kind of preaching to the choir, we all agree, okay, the mothers and everything, but it's like, another way of looking at it is that he just got up himself and decided, okay, I'm going to have to swim. Taking an opportunity to see something.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand, what's the difference in like that, what's the difference in the motherism in his action?
That's the, it's called in deep ecology, understanding affordances. When we're very separated from the earth, we always look at everything in terms of how much money do I have, can I buy it, am I allowed to go there, we look at everything very cut and dried and cut up. and our life becomes very limited. Someone that's in touch with the mother, in touch with the earth, sees what situations afford. That woman was greatly helped because she was elderly and arthritic, and it was really a drag for her to have to clean that swimming pool, which anyway nobody used. Except we cleaned it and we used it. That's seeing the situation affords something that benefits everybody. The woman is happier, her life is better, I'm happier. Sadananda's, everyone's life is better because you see what the situation affords. Now, an opportunist is more like someone who sees, here's a weak spot, I can get something out of that. That's more called opportunism. Seeing affordances or opportunities are seeing, wow, if I flow this way, I can make everybody's life better. And everybody will get what they want. Well, that word opportunism often has to do with winning and losing. Coming in opportunistically so that, like someone that's a war profiteer. They see a war, other people are suffering, they see an opportunity. What we're talking about with this Lakshmi Rupena and the story with the swimming pool is understanding the affordance. How can we make a win-win situation here? Just by seeing what's actually here instead of limiting to what the rule books say. Do you get what I'm saying now? Yeah. It's a very, very important way of seeing the world, and I have to honestly say that I don't want to embarrass Sadananda, but I never met anyone who is so extraordinary at seeing affordances.
Okay, so you say that I mean opportunities in a very positive way.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Using initiative, seeing affordances, seeing where it flows. Yeah.
But so you say that the mother provides all that.
Right.
Does it just provide your side of it, or it just provides situations for everything?
All of it.
The mother provides it.
My father taught me. He said, relying on divine providence means noticing that everything. My father is also rather similar to Sadananda. Was a very resourceful person. He's kind of elderly now, which limits it, but was always very resourceful, which is another word for what you call opportunism or seeing affordances, is being extremely resourceful. So my father said, relying on divine providence means noticing that everything you need is already there. It's this special quality of resourcefulness or seizing opportunities or seeing affordances that enables us to see the richness in the situation and see how the mother is providing every being with what it needs. Inherently. Now, sadly, sometimes we go in as humans and we take away from that providing. Through colonizing, through unfair economic systems, sometimes we take away from the mother's providing and we make people become poor. Although the mother had provided resources for those people in their land, sometimes we come in and we take away their resources and we force them to starve and be poor, and we take away their affordance. But even then, like people in Russia are very, very poor. What they're doing urban gardening because it's their only way to get food. They're still trying to see what is the mother providing for us in the midst of this terrible situation. This whole collapse of our economy. Well, she's provided a bit of dirt where I can grow some potatoes. Is this making any sense?
Yeah, I've never heard it that way before.
Mm-hmm.
And just a point on that, about the way things have changed. I did a Vipassana course. And they call wisdom Vanya.
Wisdom?
Wisdom, the word for wisdom. There's like three things, like action, wisdom, and I can't remember the other thing. It's just the wisdom stuck with me. They call it Vanya. And that's the Irish word, the Gaelic word for milk. And
that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
And there's like a lot of ways that Christianity manipulated a lot of this language. And that's where I put it together, like mother's milk.
The milk of wisdom, and there is a beautiful story about milk and wisdom, that the Buddha had followed an intensely masculine path of tremendous austerities and yogic practices and fasts till he was skeletally thin. And that's the time when he finally realized that the way to really break through was to meditate. And he went to sit down under the Bodhi tree to meditate. And he sat down, he tried to meditate and he tried to concentrate, but he was so weak that he couldn't concentrate his mind. And he couldn't achieve his goal and he didn't know what to do. And right then a woman comes to him with a bowl of milk and rice. And the Buddha takes the milk and rice. He breaks his fast. The other yogis are terribly disappointed that Gautama has broken his fast, but he takes the milk and rice and he nourishes his brain tissue with the feminine, right? The abundance and richness of the feminine. And he brings the masculine path of austerity in this moment meets the feminine path of abundance and being with the earth and being with the things of the senses. And he takes the milk and rice, and then his mind becomes firm and he sits under the tree and he meditates and he remembers all his past lives and he sees into the whole future, and as the sun rises he attains enlightenment. But he couldn't have done it without, like you're saying, milk. The word banya means milk and means wisdom. He couldn't have done it without the milk. He couldn't have done it without also meeting and taking in the feminine path as well and uniting that with his masculine path of tremendous tapas and strong practices. When the two came together, then we had a Buddha. And then the whole world changed because of the Buddha and his teachings. Never been the same since. Any more questions, comments, remarks? But hang out around Sadananda more, because you'll see just this extraordinary way of living in the lap of the mother and always seeing. When we were wandering the roads of India, Sadananda could always find a place to sleep in a strange city that we had just come into at dark. He would always find a good, safe and sacred and quiet place to sleep. Because he would just just being in touch with the mother and feeling what is she going to offer in this situation. Amazing. Yes.
Perhaps recently, I guess I'll just tell you something that happened to me. My bicycle was stolen with my purse on the back and my cell phone.
Oh no, your bicycle was stolen, yes.
That's my car,
Yeah.
But I had it parked outside of my building, unprotected and everything. And, someone might have seen it as an opportunity. Somebody may have said, oh, look, I scored,
Yeah.
And I took the bike and went off, and took the bag and phone and everything. And I don't think that that's the same thing as what...
No.
Ananda?
Sadananda.
Sadananda, I'm sorry. I'm not good at things. I don't feel that's the same. I don't think that's the same at all.
No, because that's going into the winning and losing. And that's stealing. Right. The mother didn't provide that bike for them.
Right. They can argue that, but I believe that's not really true.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, just another example of something of a whole different thing, is that for many years I kind of got in my own way. And I used to drink a lot, and I don't drink now, thank goodness. But I used to get in my own way a lot and do things kind of like leaving my bicycle out there. That's just a small example. And I used to just kind of repeatedly set myself up for these kinds of disasters, But now, like this job at the co-op, I see it sort of similar to what you did. Is that I got this job. But in doing this job, I'm doing a job, I'm doing a service, but I'm also, not only am I getting paid monetarily, but I enjoy it immensely. And I love working with the people I work with. I get to eat healthy food. I'm supposed to eat healthy food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm eating healthy food at a discounted price, and it works both ways. And I hope people can tell that I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I make soup here, and I love making soup, you know. I just love it. I get paid to play with food, you know.
So beautiful.
It's like, how is that possible, you know? Like, that has to be a manifestation of something higher than myself. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Again,
Like, all of the manipulations that
Yeah.
I do don't create that stuff. It creates all kinds of mess. That self-centered stuff just creates problems for me and for everyone else.
that's the mother again, and seeing the richness and the abundance, because you're in your feminine making soup, doing real earth goddess things, and you're getting paid to make soup, and because you love what you do, other people are getting well from your soup, and the co-op's flourishing because people are like, I'm going to go there because she makes amazing soup, and she's got a really good energy with it. So again, it's like the thing with the example with the swimming pool. Everybody is benefiting. That's when we know it's a real affordance and really a rich situation. Whereas with your bicycle, and then on a very ultimate level, I'm sure you will benefit from the loss of your bicycle, and greater detachment or whatever. But that's not really a richer, abundant situation. Southern Others had 3 bicycles stolen, by the way, and you have to always lock bicycles in Boulder. His bicycle's his car too. There are people that make their money out of stealing your bicycle, but that's not really part of the mother's richness. That's just the same as going to and colonizing countries and conquering them and making people poor who were rich in having enough, until we come in and we manipulate the situation with dominance. Yeah, right. It's all about stealing, and the mother's always about giving and having compassion and abundance and richness, not about taking and conquering. A lot of what we're trying to come out of is this whole conquest mentality. Anything else? Are we complete? Everybody feels complete? Thank you all. You've been a wonderful group.